Hello, my name is Robin Stedging Williams, and today I want to explore the impact that board game play has on aging adults. To start off, I want to clarify what exactly I mean by a board game. While many of us may know the classics like Monopoly, Chutes and Ladders, or even Settlers of Catan, the board game industry has been booming over the past few decades, producing thousands of unique games, each with their own experience. The definition I have settled on, based on research and my personal experience, is a type of game that centers around a central playing surface. A board game contains rules and tokens that enable interaction between the players, as players focus on this central playing surface. Now, this definition is very broad, but so is the board game hobby. Since the popularization of the internet, the social emphasis on virtual life has left many with a craving for authentic communal experience, which board games can provide. Board games allow a space for learning and interaction, which results in players engaging in conceptual thinking, teamwork, and creativity. Now, not every board game is for every player, but what I love about board games is that each one offers a unique experience where players challenge their minds and share an experience. Generally speaking, there are several skills that most board games promote. As I mentioned, the communal aspect of board game play cannot be emphasized enough. Spending an hour with a loved one to play a game can lead to a fulfilling and thoughtful experience for all players. Board games rely on the players being actively involved with one another and facilitate that interaction by design. Navigating a board game also enhances players' social and conceptual skills. Not only do players have to communicate with one another, they practice rule following, critical thinking, and creativity. Board games can also be excellent tools for learning and practicing specific content skills. Many games have numerical elements where players are responsible for simple math calculations and language conceptualization. Other games emphasize the concept of priorities and opportunity costs. Perhaps taking one action prevents you from completing a different task. Another common theme in board game is map navigation. Several popular games have some form of map that players must read, discover, or traverse in order to advance the game. All of these skills work together to get the gears turning upstairs, encouraging folks to practice thinking with the support of those around them. Much of the existing research regarding the board game hobby focuses on the impact that board game play has on children. In a classroom setting, board games are used to teach social skills as well as specific content. One study by Trimlet in 2021 utilized board games to teach about the life cycle of a monarch butterfly. Another study developed a board game to teach students about bullying, finding that those who participated in the game and the post-play discussion demonstrated greater knowledge and empathy than the controlled group who didn't play the game. More specifically, board game play can be utilized as a tool for children with disabilities. Trimlet again in 2021 indicates that play is a critical context where children learn. Board game play promotes autonomy and independence within a set guidelines where children feel safe to explore. They again contribute to social development and provide an alternative learning environment for those who may struggle with traditional teaching methods. There are several other areas within the board game hobby that have been researched to a lesser extent. It's a growing field. Published in 2017, Beggy argues that humans develop a deeper conceptualization of history through board game play. They identify a train-themed game, 1830 Age of Steam, that depicts the development of the railroad, allowing players to interact with and manipulate historical events, shaping the player's understanding of cultural events. Other studies examine the differences between competitive style games and cooperative style games. Pepler, Danish, and Phelps in 2013 indicate that students who participate in cooperative style games experienced a more robust content exploration than their competitive peers, The cooperative players also demonstrated a more positive affect throughout the experience. There have been games developed to teach and reinforce healthy habits, like that have resulted in behavioral changes, like smoking cessation or healthy eating habits. Also, there has been research done to suggest that playing traditional abstract strategy games like chess, Go, or checkers improves symptoms of depression and cognitive impairment. Now, there is some, but limited, research about how board game play impacts aging adults. Referenced in Bayek's 2020 article, a study in Brazil utilized board games to promote active and healthy aging. The study followed aging adults who attended a health clinic and were asked to participate in board game play to promote their understanding of their condition and to aid in the decision-making process regarding treatments. Larkin, in 2014, examines a card-based board game called Age-tastic, where players roll a die to select a deck of cards to draw from. Each deck has a different theme, all asking objective questions to quiz the player's knowledge on the topic. They indicate that players experienced many benefits from playing Age-tastic, including a reduction of depression symptoms, loneliness, and even in their blood pressure. So, with all of this in mind, I decided to develop my own game to play with aging adults. I call it Tell Me More. Tell Me More is a simple board game designed to gain an understanding of an individual's life circumstances, past experiences, and goals for the future. The rules are fairly straightforward. Players take turn rolling a die. It looks like a standard die with 6 sides, but it only goes up to 3, so 1, 2, or 3. Then they move the pawn in either direction on the track, drawing a card that matches the color of the tile they land on. The cards have 3 decks, which are themed past, present, and future. Players then read the card aloud and answer to the best of their ability. Landing on a wild tile at either end of the track allows a player to choose which deck to draw from. Following the active player's response, the other players determine how many points the active player is awarded for their answer. A more robust and deep thinking answer may be provided with 3 points, whereas a simple one-line answer perhaps gets 1. The game is over when one deck of cards is depleted, and the player with the most points at the end is declared the winner. So here is a prototype of my game, Tell Me More. It's far from a professional production, but it allowed me to engage with 8 different individuals and learn about their past, present, and future circumstances. It was a truly rewarding experience to play this game with aging individuals and learn more about their lives. It was a non-intrusive way to open conversation about deeper topics and ask some difficult questions. So let's look at what the decks of cards hold. The first deck of cards asks questions regarding the past experiences. What's been important to you and what do you value? Tell me about the most courageous thing you've ever done. My goodness, I heard some stories about that. I believe my favorite is a man who decided to share the story of when he jumped into a river to save his child. He indicated that just the child lost control in the river, and without thinking, he dove in to save them. I've also heard stories of fleeing from war. How did you overcome hardships in your life? This question seeks to get at how people navigate difficulties, what strengths they have and have utilized in the past. Tell me about an accomplishment that you're proud of. This allows the players to reflect about the positive experiences in their life and the hard work that they have done to accomplish a goal. Tell me about any prior experiences with a health crisis. This question in particular is helpful for understanding what context the participant or the player is coming from in terms of their knowledge of healthcare and their healthcare system. If they've experienced a crisis in the past, how did they navigate that? What did they learn from that experience? This can be a helpful question to understand their perception of healthcare. And then, who has been most impactful in your life? This question is aimed at identifying supports that are impactful in their life, positively so, and can provide support. Present, questions to explore current circumstances. These questions are aimed at looking at today. What is something you hope for today? These questions promote reflection and thinking about what it is we can focus on that is positive today. What's something you hope for today? I've had a couple of players say, I don't really hope for much today. I don't have a lot to hope for. But I push them, I urge them, I say, well, what's one little thing you can hope for today? You can hope to stay off the floor, stay upright. You can hope to have a good meal this evening. You can hope for a phone call from a nice friend. Thinking about ways that today can be a good day and what you can hope for and what you can do to make that happen. What is something you can do today to make you smile? Similarly, this identifies tasks, topics, or hobbies that people find joy from and get fulfillment from. Again, some people have a hard time answering this question, but others can say, oh, I'll call my friend or I'll talk to my daughter. And those kind of things allow some insight into what the player finds joy in and how we can best support them in that. Who do you value as a part of your daily life? Once again, talking about identifying those supports. Tell me about what you understand about your current health condition. This question aims at understanding the player's level of awareness of their own circumstances. Many of the aging adults that I've played this game with have some complex medical diagnoses. So to understand what they perceive to be the most important pieces of their health condition can give insight into what to look for in the future. And tell me about your mood today. This question seeks to get at some of those depression and anxiety questions, thinking about, it's been a pretty rough day. I don't have a lot of energy, or it's been a pretty worrisome day, and I don't really know where we're going to go from here. These things can help identify if players are experiencing some of these symptoms and if there may be a need for additional support. Future. These are questions that examine future goals. I would argue that these are some of the heavier questions of the game. Questions like, how do you want others to remember you? This question seeks to get at how people want to be valued or what they do value and how they want to be remembered for those values. What are your goals for the last chapter of your life? Thinking about, even if you have a critical condition or a terminal illness, what kind of things do you hope to accomplish yet? Even in the last chapters of your life, are you seeking to live as long as possible at whatever means necessary? Or are you hoping for peace and quiet to stay in your home, be surrounded by loved ones? What does living well mean to you? What kind of things make a day a good day? And how do we continue having good days into the future? What does a good death look like to you? This question was met with some pushback from some folks. A good death, that's a topic that seems quite taboo, but in the context of this game, it's a safe space to explore what a good death looks like to you. There's not a right or wrong answer, but I'm looking to see if you have some thoughts. Describing a good death, some people did struggle. One man said, I don't quite know. I just want to be gone. I don't want to know it's happened. So thinking about how can we advocate for services and care and treatments that may lead to the best outcomes for a good death for these players. Who do you hope is present with you during your final days? Again, identifying support system and who the people value. Following the gameplay experience, I asked the players a set of 4 questions. I just wanted to learn a bit more about their experience playing the game and how much they enjoyed it. So, what was your experience playing this game? Many people indicated that they had a good time thinking through old memories and thinking about what they can do to make them smile. They indicated that it's been time, or they don't feel that people frequently ask them questions with such depth, that these questions allowed them to explore their mind, activate things that they haven't activated in quite a while, and pursue what was really important to them. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much did you enjoy this experience? Out of the 8 players that I played with, 3 of them indicated that it was a 10 out of 10 experience. A few others indicated a couple lower numbers, but I was quite satisfied with the perception of how much the players enjoyed the experience. What did you learn from this experience? This was another tough one for some to answer. They say, oh, I didn't quite learn anything. They say, well, what's a nugget of wisdom that you take away from this? And many of the players indicated that there is benefit and value in pursuing some difficult questions, in thinking about tough things, and thinking about the future. In order to obtain a good death, or to have a good death, experience a good death, one must be prepared to make difficult choices to ensure that happens. In this way, this game could open the door for conversation with family and friends about how to ensure that this person's wishes are honored and that they are able to have a satisfying life with a good death. And then I asked, would you be interested in playing a game like this again? 2 of the players indicated no, that they had enough, but 6 of the players said, yes, I would love to continue this kind of conversation, to have more questions to ask and to answer, and to continue thinking about these topics. So why is this important? I am a big fan of board games. I think that they are fantastic tools for learning, for social engagement, and for all sorts of engagement. It's an opportunity to build rapport. Though I played this game with personal connections in my life, there's clearly the ability for board game play in a clinical context. Thinking about how do we open conversations that are difficult, and how do we assess people's engagement. A game can do both of those things. A gameplay allows the safe space to explore and to be creative while still, getting at some of those tougher things, tougher conversations. It provides a narrative for each player. Now, I didn't really talk much about this earlier, but as myself and the player were playing the game, I answered questions myself, which allowed the player, the participant, some more insight into my life as well. The reciprocal nature of that allows for that strong rapport, good relationship building, and to ask each other questions, following up ideas and topics. Another thing that board games can be used for is they can be tailored to specific topics. The game I designed, Tell Me More, focuses on engagement, getting an idea and a baseline of where people are at and how they hope to continue living, especially as they age. But these board games could be tailored to disease-specific information. They could be tailored to fall prevention education. Any kind of education you can imagine, we could put into a board game. And how neat a tool board games are for teaching, learning, and having a fun, engaging experience. So, recommendations for the future. Clearly, more research needs to be done about how board gameplay impacts aging adults. My little study was far from an official study, but the positive results and positive experiences that I got out of this experience lead me to believe that there would be significant findings from research that is looking at how board gameplay can concretely impact aging adults. The different stimulation that they get, the dexterity they maneuver, the reading skills, the math skills, all sorts of things. Research, research, research. Implementation of regular gameplay into long-term care facilities. I worked for a couple years as a resident assistant in an assisted living facility. And while we were encouraged to play games or puzzles with our residents on occasion, there wasn't really quite time enough in the day to get all of our duties done and to have that more relaxing experience. It would be fantastic if long-term care facilities had a more regular implementation of board game play, and perhaps some do, but the continual engagement in board games allows so much cognitive processing and memory and all sorts of skills that could be very beneficial for those living in those long-term care facilities and more isolated from the outside world. Utilizing board games as a form of education surrounding common health conditions. In my work now with aging adults, many of whom suffer from common health conditions like chronic obstructive pulmonary disease or chronic heart failure, kidney disease, diabetes, many of whom have limited understanding of what that disease entails for their life, common complications that could happen, symptoms to look out for, all sorts of things. Developing board games that could educate participants about these conditions could be a very helpful and useful tool in teaching and in learning and engaging with the participants. My last suggestion is that you play a board game with your aging family members or friends. They don't even have to be old. They can just be aging. We all are. So I would recommend every individual take some time, carve it out, and set some intentional time to play board games with your loved ones as a method of engaging with them, unlocking creativity, thinking skills, communication, all sorts of things, and just see what kind of benefits you get out of it. Thank you very, very much for your time and attention. If you are interested in further reading on this topic, here are some references.